Do AfD voters have something to do with high numbers of corona infections? Well, a new study comes to a clear conclusion. Even the researchers are surprised by one aspect. So, according to a study, the number of infections rose particularly sharply in the two corona waves in 2020 in districts with a high proportion of votes for the Alternative for Deutschland, the AfD. Factors such as the proximity of a region to the border, the numbers of schools or home office quotas can therefore be excluded as alternative explanations for the increase in incidences. This is the result of a work published on Friday by scientists from the Jena and Bielefeld sub-institutes of the Research Institute for Social Cohesion and the Helmholtz Center in Munich. The starting point for the research was the assumption that there is a higher level of skepticism towards democratic institutions and a lower level of acceptance of corona protective measures in regions with a high level of support for parties of the radical right, and that this is why the numbers are increasing. The Jena sociologist Matthias Quent, who is also involved in the work, had already pointed out such a possible connection last winter. He said, in order to be able to check causalities, it would have to be statistically excluded that various factors also convey the effect. He wrote that on Twitter at the time. The scientists now use statistical models to investigate whether there was a connection between the AfD second vote share in the 2017 federal election and the increase in corona infection numbers in the waves of spring and autumn 2020 in the 401 districts and urban districts. To do this, they included a total of 48 factors in their calculations. In addition to demographic characteristics, the infrastructure, location, and healthcare in the respective districts were also calculated. The aim was to rule out as many known alternative explanations as possible for regionally high incidences, said co-author Christoph Richter. And the result was, in regions with a high AfD share of second votes, the increase in the number of infections in the two waves in 2020 was higher than in districts with a low share of AfD second votes. That was shown in both East and West circles. The assumption that is sometimes made that the connection of specifically East German phenomenon cannot be confirmed on the basis of the results the authors write. The researchers could not find a similar effect for any of the other parties in the Bundestag. In addition, it could be shown that there is also a connection between the proportion of votes of other right-wing parties and the proportion of non-voters in the past and the corona numbers today. This indicates that people in these regions have long since distanced themselves politically and democratically. We were surprised that it shows so clearly, said Richter. However, the results did not mean that all AfD voters violated corona measures or that all opponents of the measures were AfD voters, the scientists said. Since it is about data at the district level, no statement can be made about individual motives. With a view to the current infection situation, one could speculate that the connection between the political culture in a region and the number of infections is even stronger, said Richter. This can be seen in the debate about vaccination readiness in the regions that currently have particularly high incidences. In order to make a scientifically verifiable statement, however, it must be calculated statistically, because there's a problem. The available vaccination data are not broken down according to place of residence, but according to the location of the vaccination. And it's a very interesting statistic here, though. Just saying, my city always came well through the pandemic, and we still have a very low incidence compared to the rest of the country at the moment. And we only had less than 3% of AfD votes in the general election we just had. Just saying. I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.